Hello, everybody. Say hi in chat if you can hear me okay. As you'll see here, I have a cat today. She's joining me. She doesn't like it when I'm sitting in the chair. If you all can give me some feedback on my audio, I would love to hear that, by the way. Oh, dear God. Okay. Hello there, Guru. God. This is what it's going to be like today, and I'm very sorry. And I was going to do a whole fancy thing with my green screen, but as you can see, I was concerned about her taking it down, and then you would see the mountain of contraband behind my screen, so I'm just going to leave it up, so as not to create the illusion that I have nothing to hide. Alright, to start off with, I just want to say thank you to all of our subscribers on Substack, on people who have sent money to help sponsor this stream, on Venmo, on PayPal, and I'm going to read out names especially, but there is one I want to especially mention, which is Tiffany, who donated over $1,000 to get this stream off the road. This is our first public trans learning live. These used to be private events. So I'm excited to do this with you, and I hope you all are excited to join in. How many folks we got watching today? I see we've got like a few. How's everybody holding up? Oh, I see it's being advertised. Yeah, Tiffany is an absolute delight. Let me just get my phone out here so I can just read off everybody who's been supporting, because there's just been so many. I'm not going to do last names. I feel like protecting everybody's privacy is important. So, let's see here. Alright, so supporters for this stream. Well, I guess we'll just start off on... Let me just pull up my browser over here. And I'm just going to look these up as we go. Alright, so first I'm going to check the payment link that we used for this stream. And just while we're waiting, can we just get a bunch of 07s, in chat for everybody who helped make this possible? Because without you all, I wouldn't be able to do these streams, especially not in our current climate. So let's see here. I'm just going to go check our link. And I'm only going to do the payments preceding this. Okay, so I just have to go check my payments and analytics here. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So 9 people used the link to pay. I see Ashley. Ashley gave $20 to the stream. Thank you so much, Ashley. And then I don't know the actual name attached to this, but I believe this is Dan. I think I recognize... Yes, Dan. Dan gave a whopping $50 to the stream. Thank you so much, Dan. Itzel came in with $40. We have an anonymous donation of $30. Eileen donated $50 to the stream. Thank you so much, Eileen. Great, now I'm going to have that song stuck in my head all day, and I'm really sorry about it. Let's see here. Who else have we got? Okay, getting back to it, we've got Belle with $20. We've got Herd Thinner, that's the name that's given here, for $20. Griselda for $100. and D for another $25. So those are the people who use the payment link on Stripe to help support this. And Venmo's a little bit more complicated because they don't let me set these things out. I do know Emily, a friend of mine, gave $50 for this. So thank you so much, Emily. All right, now I'm checking on my phone. Oh my goodness, I'm having to go back a ways. I really wish Venmo would just let me export these things. Let me see, actually, I believe I think I might be able to just do this on, I think I may have a sheet where I was tracking some of this. Sure was. Let's see here. Also, we've got Laura, Reba, Daedra, Shiny, Defaulta, Catherine, Leanne, Karen, Melissa, Dylan, Catherine, Winona, another Catherine, Robin, Trey, Michelle, Elizabeth, Nick. Nick came in with $250. Joy, Maureen, Polly, Elliot, Karen. There's a name I can't read here. I think it's Mandus or something like that. Melissa, Stoltz, Kristen, Jasper, and Becky. Those are all of our donors for the stream. If I miss somebody, please just hit me up in the chat. Let me know. All right. I am sipping tea because I've had sinus problems and I want to make sure my voice sounds okay for while I'm streaming. I've got this one like errant hair here. I need to get a hair appointment, but affording those is hard, especially in today's climate. So let's just get out the gate. There is one question. Well, first of all, let me explain to you how this is going to work. I'm going to take questions from you all. You can submit them in chat. Not all of the questions I take will be from chat. All right. The first question was from a sponsor a long time ago who I know has been waiting for this stream. So let me pull up his question. Just one moment. I got to get into Facebook. I had to restart my computer before all this started. Let me go get my messages. Oh my goodness. You know, I get so many messages. And now I'm going to have to scroll for a hot minute to find this person. While I'm scrolling through here, though, I received a message. Someone said, "Are you really trans? You look so beautiful." And well, first of all, I guess thank you for saying you look beautiful. It's been my experience that trans women are not necessarily not beautiful. I have yet to meet a not so beautiful trans woman, so. Scrolling. You know, a lot of you talk to me and I really appreciate that, but right now I am 10 layers deep in these messages. Let me see if I can just sort out. Yeah, that helped. Some of this is just spam. Hey there, Kai. For those of you that don't know, Kai is our resident artist and person who yells at me every time I mess up with a logo for the WLMN. Oh my goodness, scrolling, keeping going. Going even more. We're getting closer, I can tell. I've been waiting to answer this question on a stream for a hot minute. So I'm really excited. There it is, I found it. All right, so heading up to the question. Oh, this person actually gave me 2 questions. Hey, don't worry, Catherine. You can actually watch this on a replay. this is recorded. It'll continue to be here. No worries. I'm not setting a time limit for how long I'm going to be on today. I may just sit around for a while and hang out with you all after I'm sort of feeling like I'm done with the particulars. But in the middle here, we are going to do a random drawing sort of in the middle to determine who gets the free short story. If you're not familiar with the giveaway, anyone who has subscribed to me on Substack gets the opportunity, and you don't have to be a paid subscriber, even free subscribers are in, it's giveaway, gets the opportunity to give me a prompt or an idea for a short story, and I will turn it into reality in dedication of them. It can be based on their own life, just something they want to see brought into the world, etc., etc. There are very few limitations. Obviously, I draw the line on decency or anything that could get me arrested or libel or anything like that. Nothing illegal, right? So, here we go. Question. Oh my God, this person was very chatty. I'm trying to find the actual first question. Thanks for sharing the Discord, Key. Oh, it was in a question. Hold on, I gotta go. It was in a comment. Here we go. I'm loading the comment now. Or am I not? Oh my goodness. Hey there, C. Well, I cannot find this person's question for the life of me. I think Facebook has either removed it or... Okay, yes, here I found it. I had rephrased the question. First of all, you can submit questions in chat. I am reading questions out of my messages, some that have been given to me over the form of emails, and I'm also going to be reading some that are from our Facebook group that I feel like I can better handle on a stream, and will help me maintain people's anonymity. Okay? So, the question I got, this was the first one that came to me when I announced I was going to be doing this, so I really want to honor that and take care of this one first. Do doctors and medical professionals unnecessarily push trans operations? So first of all, let's talk about what a trans operation is, right? A trans operation is quote-unquote gender-affirming care in this person's parlance. Obviously, this would be gender-affirming care that is performed on somebody of the quote-unquote opposite sex. So, in my experience, the answer is no. They may suggest it. In my case, I was told I was a good candidate. It was not suggested to me. I have had multiple surgeries myself. There are too many roadblocks with these sorts of surgeries, too many restrictions on giving them that are not implemented with cisgender individuals to say that doctors are quote-unquote pushing them. Doctors are usually running a step behind the community by the time we even get in the door to talk to them. A lot of times, and this included myself, we already walk into the doctor's office kind of knowing what procedures we want and going from there. So I don't think it's fair to say that doctors are pushing surgeries. They may push for more specific techniques or offer limited techniques. But let's think about the most common sorts of trans operations, right? Vaginoplasty, you need 2 mental health care professionals to sign off on that almost anywhere in the world. And nobody's pushing you to do that. It takes a very long time to get into that process. Breast implants, a private doctor might push that, a plastic surgeon or something like that. But most transitional doctors who are working on or with trans people are going to just be honest with you about whether or not you're a good candidate or what differences you can hope to find. there are always going to be some unethical medical professionals out there, right? Facial feminization surgery, which I have had, once again, considered plastic surgery for most folks, and you do, again, need mental health care professionals to sign off on that before you are ever going to get the chance to even seriously consider it. And even then, like, it's all the fights with insurance. There are 1,000,001 roadblocks, and a lot of doctors have to jump through hoops to do these operations, let alone push them. Mastectomies for transmasculine individuals, right? Breast removal. Those are not pushed. If anything, anybody who was assigned female at birth has an even more difficult time accessing these kinds of operations, because those quote-unquote professionals are often like, oh my God, are you sure you want to get this operation? What if your husband one day has a problem with it? Things like that. A lot of AFAB individuals are sort of held to standards of relationships they're not even in, right? So I don't think it's safe to say that anybody is pushing trans operations. I will say that depending on where you are, you may find that without being medicalized in some way, you cannot achieve other important protections for transgender individuals. And this does not just relate to the United States or Canada or any other place. A lot of places, or individual states, but a lot of countries, for instance, to recognize you as a woman, insist on quote-unquote castration, right? They insist on some certain level of medical transition in order to even recognize you. So in those cases, it's not doctors that are pushing those operations, it's the government. Because a lot of people would be quite happy to keep more or less the body that they're in without dealing with the expense and potential side effects of medical transition. In a lot of cases, you do see doctors who are maybe a little gung-ho to start hormones. Usually not with teens. With teens, everybody is very careful. But, with adults, there are clinics and organizations that are sort of, what they do is help trans people, so they figure by the time you've gotten in the door, you already want hormones or something like that, right? That is what they do. They handle the medicalized portions of it. So they probably are assuming that you want to have those and discussing it from that point of assumption. I think some people could consider that pushing. And in a lot of cases, they're just not standing in your way. There are, of course, a lot of detransitioning stories of people who wish doctors would have stopped them from starting hormones, etc., etc. And that's not the same as being pushed. That a doctor is not responsible for quote-unquote medical regret, right? We have people who regret having knee surgeries. Doctors aren't there to stop you from that. There's all sorts of little operations that have high regret rates that doctors don't stop you from, so why should this one be different? I hope that answers this question. And let me just check here. Oh, there is a part 2 to this question, which is, can doctors encourage people who are uncertain as to whether or not they are trans to believe that they are trans? Anybody can influence anybody. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there are 0 unethical doctors who would do this sort of thing. What I can tell you is doctors are not there to argue with you if you come in and say it, right? A good therapist is not there to tell you who they are. They're there to help you process who you are. A good psychiatrist is in the same boat. So I would say, while yes, that is technically possible, it's not statistically relevant and there would be no way to prove it. Before I move on from this question, does anybody have any questions about the topic or anything they want to add in while I take a sip of tea? I have to tell you, I'm really enjoying YouTube as a streaming platform. This is pretty nice. Let me refresh my chat here. Kay, what do you mean by, do you have an idea of what you could say to others?
Like a quick, like a way to like respond to somebody who's asking that sort of a question.
About like Key is in the room. About like doctors pressuring people?
Yeah, like maybe like a quick phrase, maybe not a quick phrase, but like a phrase that people could use that doesn't spend too much energy on folks who may or may not want to actually hear it.
So I'm going to repeat this for you all in case you didn't hear it on the microphone. Kay's question is essentially like, is there sort of a pithy, short version of that answer that you can give people if they're asking these sorts of questions? And to that I give my formulaic answer, which is a lot of times when somebody is bringing this sort of thing up, it's not a good faith discussion. And there's no swaying them, because the moment you bring up something about that, you automatically get like a new hot topic. Does that make sense? Like somebody is going to, like, you're going to get a new topic of like, well, on to the next thing. I was trying to think about what I was saying there. I hope that makes sense. They're just going to keep moving the goalpost. In short, like I would tell people, doctors aren't there to argue with you when you tell them something is wrong. They are there to make it better, right? And they are doctors. The way that they know to make things better is through medicine, right? If you want help processing what you were going through, you go to a therapist. Yeah, they'll be sea lioning. Thanks, Sass. All right, let's see here. Okay. Before I move on to my next question, I'd love to take one from chat. I see there are a few of you here. Do any of you have something you want to talk about? We are going to talk about the Trump administration and sort of everything going on with them later in the stream. So, be on the lookout for that. Honeybee is down at my feet. In future streams, maybe I'll try to set up a dog cam or something underneath my desk. Honeybee likes to sleep down there while I'm working. Yeah, so when it comes to people expending effort online, doing educational work in comment sections and things like that, I just have to say, your energy is the thing you need to manage. And you also need to be aware of the fact that you are engaging in a public performance. If you're in the comment section, that's a public performance. It may seem like you're having a one-on-one conversation, but you are doing the equivalent of shouting in a restaurant, right? So if you're not in the place to have a loud conversation in public and feel that you have the authority and the capability to be effective in that moment, then you can actually make things kind of worse by being ineffectual with somebody in the comment sections. A lot of times it's best to just leave it be. Is there a site that gives resources for HRT in states that you can't get it in? More and more these sites are popping up. I haven't seen any that I'm super enthused about yet. A lot of companies have popped up doing like over the mail HRT, but they still have to send that from doctors in the state. And that means in a lot of states where it's not legal to get or not eligible, that you're still not going to get it through them. What I will say though, is just because HRT is not allowed to receive government funding or be given out by somebody who receives government funding does not mean you can't get it. I want to be very clear. Your insurance might deny it, but in a lot of cases, HRT is very affordable. And through services like GoodRx, I have a list that I'm going to post up later of sources who can help pay for prescriptions if you are unable. Okay? How am I weathering the storm and staying in the loop and supporting the community? Weathering the storm is everybody's got their own way. For me, it's very important to ground in things like movies, my family. I have been really trying to practice like being in my home and not living in my phone. So, that means putting the phone down and doing some chores, like laundry or something like that, where I'm taking care of my space, I'm taking care of me, and I'm not just taking a break from my phone to do chores. Does that make sense? Like, I want my phone to be a place I go with some intentionality. I hope that makes sense. As for staying in the loop, I am very fortunate to have a lot of connections all over the world. I'm multilingual, so even when it comes to reading news sources from from other countries, a lot of times I can read them and keep up with what's being said in other nations. I'm trying to schedule my news time, but it's hard. It's hard not to overdo it and doom scroll. And that is the advice that I would tell you is don't doom scroll, obviously. That's not helping you. The news is moving fast, but you're not going to see a lot of change in the course of mere hours, right? If you feel the need to be in touch with the news, I would say check no more than once a day. And if there's anything big, you're going to see it everywhere. You'll find out. Unfortunately, I do have people who tell me when something big happens. So, yes, acronym you all need to know. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You're going to get a lot of that, especially in the first few weeks of this administration. It's really important to remember. I guess we're talking about Trump now. I'll go back to other questions. But it is really important to remember that this administration has had 4 years of think tanks pre-writing these executive orders and everything else. These are 4 years in the making. So what appears to be a flurry of well-intentioned, or not well-intentioned, of well-organized action but there's not enough of it to last for that much longer. And at that point, we're going to see what this government can do. What do I think is the best news source at this time? That's tough. If you're more media literate, I would use Blue Sky and try to keep up with sources who are not propagandistic. You really want to find sources that are not like screaming from the top of their lungs all the time because your nervous system can't handle that. You need somebody who's just going to lay out the facts. And there are sources like that, but there's going to be some editorializing. I'm not telling you it's an objective news source. This is not the time for somebody to pretend to be objective, right? Ethics are ethics. As for like cable and published news sources, as of right now, I don't know which ones you can trust. And I think over the next few years, we're going to find out. There is, it seems like every day I'm finding a news source that is preemptively playing along. And there's not much we can do about that. Okay, I'm going to take a question from the group. All right? And these are going to be kept anonymous. I will, let users know if we have answered their question on a live stream. My goodness, a lot of people are just trying to share memes in the group right now. Wow. Yeah, Kai, why don't you go ahead and shoot those to me in a message or a text or something. I've got Discord open. You can just send it to me. My gosh. Okay, I am in our pending posts. So the first one I'm reading here is actually just a notice for our cisgender women in the audience that a lot of times you can get prescriptions for estrogen in the form of birth control or what have you that you are capable of sharing with others. It's not good. I don't actually, technically, I cannot tell you to do that. I am telling you that once you have the medicine, nobody is watching you. Keep that in mind. Yeah, so we can't publish that in the group because we can't give medical advice in the group. This top one here that I'm reading says, "Hi, I'm a trans person in the US and as an AFAB individual who is currently receiving HRT through insurance, I'm trying to make sense of the laws being taken away. Legally, I'm unsure how this truly affects me with the wording of it all. So it's important to recognize that what's going on right now are quote unquote executive actions. These are unilateral actions that can be taken through the presidency or the executive branch in general. They are not laws. They can be undone with the stroke of a pen by a future administration. They can control things like dispersal of money, which is historically the way that our federal government sort of controls what the states do, is by telling them, if you don't do this, you don't get federal funding, right? So that enforces a sort of standard, whether we like it or not. That is the mechanism they're using. So depending on your insurance company, they may or may not be affected by whether or not the government is choosing to withhold funds. And in that case, I would recommend you speak to your advocate. Every insurance company has like internal advocates for their members, and I would recommend speaking to them to sort of find out what's possible for you. Okay? It's important to recognize this person is AFAB, right? So they are getting a controlled substance, and that adds a whole other layer to these concerns. Again, the only people who can tell you for sure are in your insurance company. Those are the ones to talk to, because not all insurance companies are going to be beholden to this. Some have to act on state law. It's a whole mess. Oh my goodness, so many memes in here. Let me check and see if Kai has sent me one. Oh, yep, got one from Kai. Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm going to read this one out. What can a true ally do to show they are safe? How can they support trans and other LGBTQIA+ folk during this volatile time? I'm scared for you, lovely people. What can I do? I'm voting. I'm being loud about what I understand. How can I make the world safer for you? How can I give you a safe space online or IRL or in real life? So this is hard for a lot of people to comprehend. I want to tell you how the situation we're in came to pass, right? This did not start nationally, right? The situation we're in didn't start nationally. And part of the problem we're in was because as Democrats, especially focused mostly on national elections, they were increasingly ceding ground at local elections, in primaries, etc., etc. This is going to be undone starting at the community level, and it's going to have to grow from there. And that means, unfortunately, that the people who are being affected, like myself, basically anybody who's a marginalized person, people with disabilities, we have to kind of sit and wait for y'all to figure this out, because there's only so much we can do. And that's a harsh reality, and I don't like saying it. But it's true. We need you all focused on your immediate communities. We need you putting people on school boards. We need you putting people in leadership positions in your town, mayors and treasurers and whatnot. I'll give you a perfect example of places where this has sort of been figured out. Baltimore, which is very near me, has been quite resistant to the local raids from immigration and customs enforcement because they have local politicians who figured it out. A lot of times you get that in cities, right? In rural areas, you've got to band together with the people who are like-minded. You have to find a way to find them, and then you have to work together. It also means opening your home. It means, I gave this advice to somebody really recently that I was like, if you want to find out what you can do, think about what resources you have. Is it money? Is it time? Is it your physical body, right? Think about the resources that you have available to you. And from there, look at what actions you can take to use those resources to help people. A lot of times you may just be offering your washing machine up to trans people who cannot go to the laundromat. Everything you do to ease the suffering of people around you creates examples for other people around you, so they don't feel alone, so they see somebody else doing it. You have to be an example in your community, and not just of somebody who's being loud and fighting, but of somebody who's building something. I hope that makes sense to you. Student organizations, I see somebody mentioning like queer students. Student organizations, things like that. You may have to support them, quote unquote, underground. There's going to be a lot of people who have to essentially go into hiding. And unfortunately, we're returning to a 1960s, 1950s sort of era in a lot of places, we're going to be hosting underground clubs and get-togethers where people can safely be out. That's what's going to have to start happening. Kai is asking, what do I mean by physical body? When I say physical body, that can be a variety of things, right? Maybe you have the strength to help somebody who's been evicted move from their house, or into a new place. Maybe you can help somebody by physically protecting them. Maybe you can offer to physically walk with people from places to places. Things like that. When I say physical body, I mean something that you're going to be literally present there for, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean you have to be physically strong. How can I open my home if I'm immunocompromised and people on the other side are not willing to wear masks? First of all, when we're talking 1930s, 1940s, resistance to the Nazis and the Nazi Party was not all big and grand. A lot of people were simply losing paperwork at their jobs. I say losing in quotes. They were destroying things that would have otherwise gotten people in trouble, or sent, the SS after them, etc., etc. There are things you can do. You can even just be on the phone to take the call when someone is having a hard day. You don't have to physically open your home. You can offer money. Sorry, sinus thing. You can offer even just to sit across the room from somebody, as long as they wear a mask, whatever you can do. Be creative. Only you know what the people in your community need. Or should I say only you can find out? You may not know yet, but, talk to your local organizations if they exist. A lot of times you can simply come into our Discord server and you'll find people who are from in or around your community that you can ask questions to about what's necessary where you live. Especially if you live in more populated areas, like smaller towns, maybe not. I'm gonna check for another question here. All right, scroll in. Okay, here's an interesting one about thank you. I'm going to take some Robitussin. Cheers. That is not good. That is not tasty at all.
Making more hot water.
Okay, Hopefully that helps with my... Oh, that's really... It tastes like... I mean, I could say it tastes like medicine. It is medicine, but it tastes like fumes. Anyway, here's a question that is not about that. This is a simple little grammar question, and I'm happy to answer it. We've answered it a lot of times. I'm happy to do it again. Hi, y'all. I have seen a lot of people, including trans people, using the terms trans women with no space, trans man, trans male, etc., etc., etc. These things have no space. These are not what I would call the standard terms, and you should recognize that some people are using them because they're non-standard and they mean them, right? And it's important not to mix up the two because that matters to them, right? And we don't want to create a homogenous sort of erasure. A lot of people, like myself, are like, I'm a woman and I happen to be trans. And a lot of people say, I'm a trans woman. The transness is an essential part of my womanhood. It is core to it, so much so that I don't think the two can be separated. And they will often use that version that is a new noun that doesn't have the space. I personally believe trans is an adjective such as tall or short or blue-eyed or whatever. Right? So, yeah, in the question here, the person is making it clear that they agree with me, right? That trans is an adjective. So you wouldn't be like, I'm a tall woman, right? And squished together. In most cases, you would not. But don't correct people who are trans when you see them doing this, because you don't know how they're using it, and that just sets you up to look like a big old jerk. It's usually not your job to go out and tell people how to refer to themselves. The only time I think maybe you should do that is if somebody calls themselves something that would make them be unsafe, right? If somebody is like, hey, I'm a Nazi, okay, you might want to have a chat with them about that. But usually it's not worth getting involved over this. I will, because I'm trans and I'm in a trans space and I feel comfortable getting clarification from people, right? I have that authority to sort of seek that clarification in public spaces, usually where I'm educating. But out in the general public, I leave it be. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the energy. It's not something you want to start a fight over. Thank you. Let me see if I can find S's question. S, you've got so many comments. I don't know which one was your question.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Is it the 90 days one?
Well, there's that and,
Oh, what would I say to somebody who doesn't understand that violence won't provide long-term change?
Yes.
That is a good question. Okay, so first I'm going to get this out of the way. Violence can make change. It certainly can. I've been thinking a lot about something I remember from 2016 with, especially, I don't think trans people were nearly as much of a topic back then, and I wasn't out yet, right? But I've been thinking about something I remember Hillary Clinton saying, that you don't change hearts first, you change laws. Think of violence as a form of power, right? Government is also a form of power. So really what we are talking about here is making change through the assertion of power and through demanding sacrifices out of others. That in order to make this change, other people have to lose. And in that is the seed of reprisal. Because when you force somebody to make change, when you force it through in the form of laws or whatever, people remember. And if they weren't happy with you applying force in that way, guess what they're going to do the moment that you don't have the power to stop them? They're going to do it right back. And that is somewhat of what we're seeing here. Try to remember that for decades, pre-2016, there was all this talk of like the Supreme Court being sort of like biased towards liberal views or whatever, right? And what did they do? They went after the court. They took back that power. And then the court started overturning previous law, like previous case law. And like it or not, the way we are feeling right now about that sort of powerlessness is the same feeling they had, even though theirs was related to injustice. They were just inconvenienced, right? Nobody was hurt by that. But they still felt that sense of powerlessness, that other people were running roughshod over them. I remember, especially in 2016 and beyond, that there was a lot of this talk of like, revolutions are not people asking nicely, right? Yes, that's true, right? No revolution has ever been won peacefully, historically. Well, I'm sure there have been a couple that just went off without a hitch, but there was still power behind that, right? The military coups where, the dictator didn't even bother fighting. Those can go off peacefully, but there's still like the threat of military force and reprisal, right? So, you got a new follower on Facebook. That's nice. I didn't know that was on. Oops. So, violence it always leaves the seeds of its own undoing in its wake. Building, creating, structuring, creating infrastructure. These are the things that I see that make long-term change happen. And it starts to happen invisibly over time. So much so that people no longer remember or detect that sort of coercive feeling from it. Think about roads as an example. Yes, roads were put in forcefully by the Roman Empire, etc., etc., etc. But they opened up whole avenues of trade and exchange that changed things. A lot of times, infrastructure behaves similarly, and we have to think about it that way. The structure of things is what normalizes the activity within it, right? It's very rare for people to act outside of that structure. And I also, coming back to the revolution thing, I haven't seen a revolution that didn't include the seeds of its own undoing, or a sort of violent paranoia. You can look back at any revolution you want, any time that people have quote-unquote overthrown the oppressor. Usually the people leading it are warriors who know nothing but fighting and suspicion and paranoia, and they don't know what to do when they're out of people to fight with. The transition from militant revolt is often not successful. And the military and the people with power rarely give it up. So, is that better? I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that the biggest revolutions in human history have been technological. They've been the creation of the printing press, even to some extent artificial intelligence, the internet, trains. So much of the way we think about humans is the result of manufacturing and the metaphors that they gave us, or computers and the metaphors they give us, right? I still see trans people explained in terms of software for computers, right? We work within the confines of our infrastructure. And so I believe firmly that focusing on building infrastructure is the most important thing you can do. And over time, you can dismantle the underlying infrastructures that make people who are hateful have power in the first place. And that's a slow roll, and it's nowhere near as exciting, and it definitely doesn't appeal to that sort of violent justice that a lot of people demand. But I think it works. It works long term. And I mean, heck, look at the United States. Ours was a violent revolution, right? We're still, by all measures, a relatively young nation. And it looks, in a lot of ways, like that experiment, that the violence baked into it is coming back, that it never left in the first place. I hope that answers the question, sort of. That was a bit of a ramble. This is one of my like personal pet topics. So, does anybody else have another question you want to shoot me in the chat? Oh my goodness, we got a long one here from our feed. I recently started working with someone who is a 90s conservative, fiscal conservative, and taking over for them, so I have to work with them directly. They're pretty inclusive, but also in their 60s, so some of their thinking is out of date for sure. Okay, so that's our background. Here's my issue. The other day, they shared a personal anecdote about a female friend they had back in the 80s who said they were going to transition, did transition, and then detransitioned. Okay. According to them, they're all for trans people and trans rights, but only for 18 plus people, as they take issue with hormone blockers for teens. Oh, good. So the core of this question is about hormones for teens. Goodness. Well, puberty blockers and hormones for teens. First of all, let's go over what actually happens, where this is allowed, right? In the event that, because I have people in my life that I care very much about who are younger than 13 in some cases, and who have been on puberty blockers and or hormones, right? So I can personally walk through that process even in an unsafe area with a government that's not friendly. So this is going to be as strict as it probably gets. In order for a teen to get these things, we first have to recognize what puberty blockers are. They are medicine that has been around since the 70s. They are there originally to stop precocious puberty. That means you don't, when your 8-year-old suddenly starts showing signs of puberty, that's too early. They're way ahead of their peers. It's going to cause them problems. We use medicine, puberty blockers, to stop that happening. In the case of transgender children, we do sort of the same thing. We give them time by using puberty blockers. These are reversible, and yes, they are not without side effects. But when we're talking about side effects, we do have to have the discussion of, is the side effect necessary for this person's health, right? All medicine is a question of side effects. Is it necessary for health? Is it better than the alternative? And in the case of puberty blockers, you almost have to err on the side of the puberty blocker, right? Because there's really no telling in a lot of cases how bad it is if a person's puberty starts in full, in irreversible ways. And because then you need surgery to fix it. Puberty blockers can save thousands, maybe millions of dollars in expensive surgeries to marginally undo what hormones did, right? As for hormones for teenagers, there's a process that has to be gone through there. You need a mental health care professional. You need a medical professional. You need the parents to be on board or guardian. You need, I think, another mental health care professional, and they have to be working as a team. And they all have to agree that the likelihood of what's called recidivism in this child is so low that there is very little risk that hormones could have an adverse effect. Not zero risk. Again, no medicine in this world is zero risk. You go under the knife for a routine procedure, it can kill you. That's the fact, right? So when we talk about hormones, we've already got way more red tape determining that everybody is comfortable that this is the necessary move, etc., etc. And those hormones are often started in very low doses. They're just acclimating the body in line with their peers for puberty, right? So you need some prerequisites. It's not just like you walk into the clinic and your kid comes out with hormones. It's a process, and it's a long one. And so a lot of parents have to start on it years before their kid ever sees hormones. They won't just let you be like, oh, I decided today I'm trans and I want hormones. If you're 13, that's not going to happen. They might give you puberty blockers. to stop things from getting quote unquote worse while you figure out what's going on. But you can't just stroll into a clinic and have that happen. So I'm just making sure I'm answering all of the question. Yeah, so from my opinion, and from the opinion of lots of medical professionals, there's no such thing as quote unquote permanently safe medicine, right? How many of you all have had, oh my God, I cannot remember the name of this medicine. It's a popular, I know the chemical name is montelukast or something like that. And that medicine has been associated with like suicides and all sorts of adverse mental health care effects, right? So much so that it's got a black box warning. And heck, that stuff was advertised on TV, right? A lot of times we develop tunnel vision when it comes to trans medicine that is not only unfair, it is unscientific. We have to look at trans medicine, no matter what, in the context of, yeah, singular, that's the one. We have to look at trans medicine in context of the medicine around it, right? Almost every medicine used for transition has been used for another group well in advance. We know the side effects. We know what can and can't happen. We know what's going to happen. We can't guarantee that nothing bad comes from that, but at least we know what we're getting people into, and we can advise them clearly. A lot of this idea of, like, I'm worried about teens doing this is from the idea that teens are, like, pushed into it, and I just don't simply see that there's much evidence for that. Of course, there are some teens who can lie and pretend and get things that they don't need. But we don't take away medicine from other people because some people lie or some people regret having that operation. We still do knee surgeries, even though other people regret it, right? Just want to make sure I'm being clear here. There's really no good argument against this medicine or an argument for an 18 plus restriction, because especially at 18 plus, the effects that happen between 13 and 18, you need surgery to undo those if you can at all. So you tell me what's scarier for people: surgery, anesthesia, all of that, or just getting to grow up alongside their peers and needing some extra calcium and other care? I'm speaking, of course, about one of the puberty blockers that has been known to leach calcium from bones, right? So you have to supplement. You have to do what you can. I think it was Lupron that does that. I'll have to double check that. I don't have that information handy right now. All right. We are about 1 hour in. So, okay, here's how I'm going to do this drawing today. I was going to get some fancy software and do like a cool little wheel on the screen, but...
Oh, like Doro?
Yeah, like Doro or my other favorite streamers. I was going to do something like that, but because these are payment records, a lot of times it's somebody's like legit name in there, and I can't show that on the screen and feel ethical, right, about it. It's not just somebody's username like other Twitch streamers and whatnot do. So I'm going to use a random number generator. I'm going to count up how many rows I've got of people. I've already duplicated the rows for people who are paid subscribers and for people who are founding members on Substack. And just remember, if you are thinking about subscribing as a paid subscriber, you're automatically included in this. It just gives you another entry. So on my little spreadsheet, I've already duplicated all that, and I'm going to do a random number generator. I've shuffled them, and I'm going to let it pick a line number, and then I'm going to go and I'll announce the first name, unless it's very unique, of the person who has won. Okay? I didn't see Wade's question. Oh my goodness. I definitely don't want to forget people's questions. Let me get through this part and then we'll come back to the questions, okay? All right, I gotta go in my numbers app. So the drawing is for a short story because I want an opportunity to flex my creative muscles. And basically what this will be is whoever wins gets to give me a prompt, any kind of prompt. They can say, I want a short story about my grandma, and they can give me some details. They can say, I want a short story about a knight who marries a dragon. Who am I to judge? And so on and so on. And I will turn that into a short story over the course of the month and dedicate it to them. If it goes, Kai, if it goes to you, I will run it again. Okay? And I am not supposed to announce this yet, but I will let you know that for future drawings, some very nice artists have agreed to work with me in creating illustrations and sketches for your short stories. So, not for this one. Maybe for this one. Depends on how much sponsorship I get for February. But as of right now, I cannot afford to pay the artist, and I'm not going to just like have somebody work for free. So, yeah, I'll have an announcement about that in the future, though. All right, so I've got my sheets here. Let me just make sure everybody's good. I'll try to download this again. I think I might. Yeah, give me a second. While I'm waiting, if anybody, you've got a few minutes left before I start this, so if you are on the fence about subscribing, now's a really good time to get a monthly, yearly, or founding subscription. Remember, premium subscribers, whether monthly or yearly, get an additional entry into the drawing. People who are founding members, for every like additional 100 they put in, they get an extra entry. Okay? But there are thousands of subscribers, so, you know, and just, we'll see who comes up. All right. So I saved this info on my little server, and now I've got to go download it again. Okay. Export. Here we are. Okay, so what I'm hearing is if it goes to one of my friends or family, I should move on to the next person. And that's fair.
Yes.
We don't want any accusations of nepotism around here. So let me get in here, check my line numbers, and if it goes to somebody who I cannot get a hold of, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw three numbers. I will announce the numbers on the stream, and then I'm only going to try and get in touch with the first person. If it goes to the next like if I can't get a hold of them in the next few days, I'm going to run it to the next person, and that's going to be our new winner. Okay, does that make sense? Because I do need time if I'm going to write a custom short story. I can't wait around for people to eventually realize. All right. Yeah, it looks like it's all here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you. I'm so proud. All right.
Wonderful.
It really is. Okay, so I just need to figure out what my total number is, and then we're going to do a random number generator. All right, so we are up to 3,152 subscribers. If you have subscribed before this exact moment, you are included in the drawing. If you have not, good luck. Be on the next one. All right? So I'm doing a random number generator. Let me see if I can just pull up my web browser really quickly and show that on here. Okay, so a number picker wheel, and I'm going to do the max is, what did I say, 3,152? Let me double check that. Sometimes I transpose numbers. Oh, nope, I had that totally right. All right, and I'm gonna get rid of these advertisements. Yeah, no, not all of those are paid subscribers, but I will say I'm really proud of the amount who are. I'm at about 10%, a little less than 10% of subscribers are paid subscribers, and that does wonders for helping support. It's just incredible. So let's see if I can just pop in a source here, or if it makes me like transition it. We're all going to be playing at the same time here. So let me just, I'm just making sure nothing is on my screen that I don't want to be on my screen while I'm doing this. Okay, so if I do a display capture for the other monitor, let's add that source, allow, and then we're going to crop that down manually. We'll do to window, and we're going to do Safari. Okay, so we've now cropped that down. Show windows with empty names, that's fine, done. Okay, and I'm just going to make this small and hopefully not too small. Yeah, I love a good random number generator. Okay, so I'm going to put this up, and you're all going to get to watch me spin, and so just so you can be sure. Oh, there we go. All right, can you all see my wheel? It should take about a few seconds. There's a bit of a lag. Oh God, I can't go up to 3,152. Oh no. I have to do another one. Okay, we're just going to do a random number generator. And we'll generate our max of 3,152. All right, ready? I'm going to hit the generate button. You can all see this?
I'm seeing something.
Okay, I'm going to hit it. All right, we're looking for user 2218. That is who our big winner is. So I'm going to go to this and make sure it's not somebody from that I know immediately. Scrolling. I'm not going to show any of this on the screen, obviously, because it's people's emails and whatnot. I don't want to violate their privacy. Oh my God, there's so many. It's a good problem to have. 2218. We're almost there, people. We can do it. 2218 or 2218. Almost. Okay, so fortunately, let me just take a little snapshot of that. Okay, so our winner today is named Janice, and I am so excited. I mean, did I get rid of the screen? That's right. Oh, I need to make this bigger again. Transform, fit to screen. There we go.
Yeah, I don't see the screen.
Okay, great. All right, so Janice, I will be in touch. I'm going to do 2 other numbers on here. I'll tell you what they are. I'll call them out as I do them. And if Janice does not show up, those will be our winners. All right, our next number is 1195. And our next number after that is 1486. So those are our big winners. If you were one of the 3, but you didn't win the short story, I will still write you a lovely letter. I didn't announce that, but I still think you deserve something if you're one of those 3 people. So congratulations, Janice. And to the other winners, can we all just give them like an 07 in chat? A little, like, babe, do an 07. Do an 07 in chat for them.
Literally just 07?
Yeah, 07. Yep, there it is. Or 07, like little O.
Oh.
It's like a salute. It makes a little salute shape. There it is. All right. Now, I've heard that we have a question from Wade that I must not have seen somewhere. I have a friend who's openly trans at her inclusive workplace. She worries the government demands census records from her work. Should she change her gender marker with work to appear cis? Here's the thing. If you are openly trans in your workplace, it's a little late to go changing it back, right? People already know. And unfortunately, if you work for somebody who's willing to rat you out, they're going to. That's the situation. And I know that's scary, but that's where it is. And I'm not trying to be hard about this or rude. That just is the situation. As for changing information, oh, thank you, Kai, for saying this. I'm going to finish what I'm saying and then I'll read what you said because that was very sweet. Where was I? Sorry, I have like the ADHD going on. I took my meds, but I took them like right before the streams, and that stuff is still not clearly kicked in. Let me get back on track. Right, as for your documentation, I am in a similar place. West Virginia is obviously not the most trans-friendly state in the world. There are gonna be weird occurrences around. It's hard to tell what's gonna happen. Are ye birth certificates or any of that, right? It's just really hard to tell what's about to happen. A lot of data is going to get lost. A lot of data is going to be forcibly reversed by states who have now feel at liberty to do so. We have no true way of being sure right now. So I can't advise anybody take these sorts of immediate actions because one, they may draw attention to you, and two, it may be too late. Depending on what state you're in, it may just cause them to notice you. And it just depends. I'm really sorry. I don't have better advice. But without knowing the state this person is in, what the community is like, what the laws are like, I really can't give good advice about whether or not somebody should try changing gender markers right now. And that's rough. It's a rough situation we already are in. Yeah, like I know states are in control of the sex markers on our IDs, but not on our passports and not on our birth certificate. Well, they are on the birth certificates, but the state you're in can't change your birth certificate if you're from another state. It's a whole rigmarole. And I'm going to take a minute just to read what Kai said because it's true and I love you all. What people might not know is that I actually personally pay for everything that our organization does in the WLMN. That's the Want to Learn More network. So I'm paying for all of the bots that we use in our Discord server. I'm paying for the software to do this stream. I'm paying for any direct action we do. I'm paying for our software, emails, etc., you name it. That's all out of my pocket right now. And anything you can do to support the organization and me in making good things happen for people is really super appreciated. And I just love you all so much, and I hope you will support us. All right. I think we're at 1:47. So I usually try to keep these to about 90 minutes. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with that today. Who knows? I could just play some games. I could play some Balatro or something. But well, since it's recorded, I don't want to go too long. What do you all think? Should I keep going for another 30, or are you feeling kind of good? Like we can start wrapping it up and getting our last minute messages out there and all that jazz. Also, if any of you are willing to volunteer as moderators for like YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook streams, I would love to hear from you, because I'm going to be doing this sort of thing more often, and especially in this climate, I'm going to need help moderating. It must be hard for you by like hearing me talk 60 seconds before it shows up on your screen.
Oh yeah, and I keep forgetting, so I was about to type something.
The only person that can give me real 90 minutes was 120. No, I started the stream at 12:30, so we're only about 60 minutes in. I started a little late because of the sinus thing. And I'm trying, if anybody wants to teach me how to use the streaming software even better, God, I would love that information, because I am good at figuring stuff out, but a little tutorial could make things even better for me. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to... dismantling the DEI will affect... Oh, how will dismantling the DEI affect people in the workplace? We're gonna have to wait and see. In governmental offices, there's internal resistance. There are people hiding each other, obfuscating things as much as possible. It's hard to tell. If you're in the government, anybody who is hired through a DEI program of some kind is potentially at risk. There are other actions that are at play here, such as spending freezes or the dissolution of entire portions of government, that it's hard to tell how they're going to ripple down. The private sector is not wholly held to this. Only if they accept government funds does this executive order affect them. So it depends on if they accept government funds in the private sector. Like, a lot of contractors are enforcing this because most of their contracts come from the government, and therefore they are getting funding from the government, etc., etc. It's just impossible to tell. And I'm really sorry I can't give a better answer. A lot of these executive actions will ripple out over the course of time, and probably what you see in federal agencies is what you will see through a lot of the private sector. I hope that helps. I think we have time for one more question. So if somebody wants to give me one more question, I would love to answer that. I feel like we've been doing a pretty good job with our questions today. I would love to take this one from the chat. So if anybody has something they want to talk about from the chat, it doesn't even have to be a question. You can just give me something you want to talk about, or that you want my opinions about. Asked which charities in the United States would be most... Okay, so Robin, the UCLA and Lambda Legal are good ones as far as I know. I'm a bit partial towards Southern Poverty Law Center. I have seen them do a lot of very good work, and I think they would continue to. And the ACLU is probably very similar in terms of donations going to legal efforts to fight what is going on. However, if you are capable of direct aid through services like PayPal, Stripe, Zelle, or what have you, you may consider offering your services as somebody who can help people afford their medicines, because there are going to be a lot of people who aren't in the purview of these organizations who are losing insurance access or otherwise being punished, and sending them money to get a taxi to go to doctor's appointments or whatever could be life-saving for people. So don't forget direct action. And we in the WLMN, in our groups and in our Discord, are reevaluating how we are doing direct action to sort of meet this moment, while also making sure that everybody stays safe. Okay? So if you're not on our Discord server, and would somebody put the link again in the chat? If you're not in our Discord server, if you're not in our Facebook groups, if you're not on the Substack, then you're going to miss some opportunities to do good work for individuals that you can directly see the impacts of that. Okay? So, what?
Sorry, can you repeat the name of that charity you were talking about?
The Southern Poverty Law Center?
Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yes, they do a lot of like anti-radicalism work, especially anti like right-wing fascism sort of work. I think they're going to be a very important organization over the next few years. And also there's the Trevor Project, and Trans Lifeline is going to be really important over the next few years, so donations to them could be helpful as well.
I know in our resources channel too, we have like a lot of these listed, I think, in the Discord.
Yeah, in our Discord we have a resource channel, and a lot of these could be very useful there. We keep a channel that is just a list of good resources for people. And many of those are charities. I also want to shout out a charity I've worked with personally, the Trans Empowerment Project. Donations to them. If you send them a donation, though, just tell them I sent it, because they were really struggling a little bit back, and they've been getting some grants and stuff, but they could still use it. And multiple times I've worked with them to help get people who had been unfairly kicked out of their homes just immediate resources that they needed. And we've got 5 more minutes, so yeah, okay. Here's what I'm going to do with the next 5 minutes. I'm going to make sure you all have the links you need. So could somebody post the Substack link in the comments down below? And on top of that, I just want to talk about our next stream, which is going to be at the end of February. I am working on the exact date. I did have it scheduled for, I think, the week of the 14th. I have to double check my calendar. But because I was supposed to be at a wedding, but now I'm not sure I'm safe to travel to that wedding because of these executive orders, so I'm still not sure if I'm going to be able to go. I'm doing my best to go. So as of right now, the plan is the announced date in the middle of February. So if you want to get in on that drawing, or you want to help support and sponsor the next stream, we'll get those links out. There's a link I have here just to help support the streams. That's exactly what this goes towards. Gotta go get my dashboard real quick. And I'm gonna sign into my chat here. Open in a web browser. I'm gonna post a link down below. I will also add it to the notes for the show. And here's the link to help support the next stream in February. So, again, I'll read your name off, first name only if you sponsor, and of course you'll be entered in the drawing as well if you sponsored the stream. Okay, there's the link that should be showing up. Oh, we got a new YouTube subscriber. Woo! And if you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, why not? Do it now. Yeah, we're gonna do some checks. We're gonna check up if you're not subscribed on YouTube, on Substack, on Facebook. What's wrong with you? I like to think I'm pretty cool.
Oh, good, I'm subscribed. I thought maybe I wasn't.
Oh my god!
I thought maybe
my own wife had to check and make sure they were subscribed.
Well, I didn't know if maybe I wasn't, but I was.
Well, now's the time, people. Get on board. Because there's going to be more content. I'm going to be working very hard for the next 4 years at the very least. So, not that I was ever going to stop working hard. And yeah, I'm going to remind you all that if you donate at all, any amount, you get credited on our streams. So that's what's that. All right? Please consider helping out. It's tough, especially, rent's going to be due in a few days. So anything that helps a lot. All right. Let's see here. We got 3 more minutes. So I'm going to tell you all what else I've been up to. I do think it's very important to sort of ground at the end of these conversations, especially in the climate we're in. So if you are feeling stressed out, overwhelmed with what's going on, I understand. I really want for you to take a minute, breathe, and ground yourself in your home. Play some video games. If you're deciding to play Genshin Impact or Zenless Zone Zero, add me. We'll be friends on there. Not a problem at all. And, oh, I just got a message. Oh, yes, and the donations for credits on the stream, I will be adding them in the comments this time because my little scrolly thing doesn't work. So they will be in the, not the comments, they'll be in the description, okay? I'll make sure that we properly cite everybody. All right, I was going to try and get there's a streamer we watched, James Turner, and I wanted to do something like his. And, yeah. And I just couldn't figure it out in time. So I'm going to put all that information down in the comments. Everybody will be credited from now until eternity. All right? And thank you, Kai, for reminding me. I did need to say that. I meant to say that outright, that I was going to be putting that in the description of the post. I'm just so glad that we could do this. I'm looking forward to doing it again. And as these become better or more popular, I'm just super stoked to be able to hold them more often. So the quicker that these get sponsored, the more often I can do them. And who knows what they could grow into, right? All right. I love you all. And I'm going to say what I usually say at the end of my streams, which is I hope you all are peaceful, well, and healthy. And I hope that you help